Hello. Today we will be covering policies and procedures for Promise Fellows. My name is Beth Benson. I am the Compliance and Operations Manager at the Alliance. I oversee the onboarding and exiting of members, as well as all of the policies and procedures throughout the year. The Alliance's role is to act as the employer of the Promise Fellow program. We maintain all personnel files, program policies, oversee the discipline process, and can provide any employment verifications as they come up. Additionally, we are administering Americorps Promise Fellows their benefits, so that includes the living allowance and health insurance for our full-time members. And then we maintain workers' compensation if a member were to become hurt while serving. If your member comes to you with any questions about any HR type things for the role, send them our way so we can get them the information that they need. So I'm going to talk about some of the policies that exist with the Promise Fellow program and our expectations of Promise Fellows. So we'll start with the member code of conduct. So members at any time while they are acting in official capacity as a Promise Fellow are expected to abide by all provisions, policies, and regulations of the Alliance and Americorps and of the host site. Make sure that you are sharing with the members when they begin service the policies and procedures of your site so they know how to follow those. Fellows are expected to demonstrate mutual respect toward others and conduct themselves in a manner exemplary of a role model to youth. They are to direct their concerns to the Alliance and their supervisor. They must protect confidential and proprietary information, and then meet all other expectations of the Alliance. So at the beginning of the year, make sure that you are talking through each of these bullet points so members know what the expectations are and what it means to protect confidential and proprietary information, what it means to conduct themselves in a manner exemplary as a role model to youth. At no time may a Promise Fellow engage in any activity that is illegal under local, state, or federal law, engage in any activities that pose a significant risk or cause harm to others, engage in any of the Americorps prohibited activities, consume alcoholic beverages or be under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs during the performance of service, or fail to notify the Alliance of any criminal arrest or convictions that occur during the term of service. Members should also not be using inappropriate or offensive language. If at some point a member breaks the code of conduct, the Alliance needs to be notified right away, especially if the member has been convicted of a violent felony or possession, sale, or distribution of a controlled substance, has caused significant physical or emotional harm to another individual, or violated the member agreement. Make sure to reach out to the Alliance right away if any of these things happen. I will say, 99% of members, these issues never come up, but we just have to lay it out clearly at the beginning of the year so you do know that if an issue does arise, to let the Alliance know right away. Again, we're acting in that employer role, and so we oversee the discipline process. So if any sort of investigation were to be launched involving your HR, the Alliance has to be a part of that from the beginning. Make sure you are sharing the distance learning policies that you have in place with your Promise Fellows. We're anticipating that most sites are doing either fully virtual or some sort of hybrid model with their students. And so make sure that fellows know how to interact with students and follow the correct policies and procedures of your site. So that's going to be covering things like, can a member be on a video call one-on-one with a student, or do they need another staff member? Are the video calls recorded? Does the member have to have their video on or off? Things like that. Make sure to talk to your fellow at the beginning of the year or as soon as those policies are established to make sure that just those expectations are clear and the member knows what is expected of them throughout the service year. So service has to be in the state of Minnesota. If once we get back in person, there's going to be a field trip, some college trip, something like that, and it's going out of state that the member would like to support the students on, it might be okay. Let us know, and we will check with our insurance to make sure that we have liability coverage in that state. That is what the issue comes down to, is that we have to have liability insurance for our members. And so we have to make sure that the states that the members are going to be serving in are covered. So let us know if that comes up at all. And then additionally, members have to be serving in the United States. It's Americorps, service has to be in America. There have been examples in the past where sites took students on service trips abroad. And while that's an amazing opportunity, if a fellow were to go on a service trip abroad or any trip abroad with students, that would be on their own time. They would not be receiving any service hours. During COVID, something that came up this spring when Minnesota had the stay at home order, there were some members that left Minnesota to go stay with family during that time. And this may be okay if we encounter another stay at home order and your member wants to be serving remotely from their home. Again, let us know so we make sure that we have liability coverage in that state to protect the member. So members are not allowed to perform home visits by themselves. They must always be accompanied by a staff member, and then they have to follow any of your site-based policies for being alone with youth. So if they are, doing any visits in person with young people, make sure that they're following your policies. Are they allowed to be one-on-one with a young person, or do they need to have a staff person with them? If they're meeting in a classroom, does the door need to be open? Things like that. And then additionally, consider COVID safety considerations. So make sure that the member and student are wearing a mask, that they're socially distancing, and meeting outside if possible. Members are discouraged from driving their students in their personal vehicle, especially during COVID. Really hard to socially distance during COVID. But additionally, if a member is driving their personal vehicle, their personal auto insurance is liable if they were to get in an accident. So if the member does opt to use their personal vehicle, make sure that the site is providing any training that any other staff would be receiving um, for driving students. We did have an audit a couple of years ago where a member had written that they were driving a student in their timesheet, and then the auditor requested to see the proof of insurance to make sure that they had coverage. So this does come up, and we will cover it with fellows, and it's in their member agreement, so they know that they are liable, but make sure to let them know. So our stance is that Promise Fellows should not be friending students on social media with their personal accounts. Um, we know that some host sites do use, like a Facebook account, and it's a Promise Fellow account, and then fellows are communicating to students or families that way. If that's what your site does, that's fine. But I would say that personal accounts should not be used to communicate with students, and that's protecting the member and the students. I also encourage all members to have a Google phone number if your site isn't providing a phone to student or to members. So that way a phone call would go to the member's personal phone, but it's not their personal phone number. So that helps set up some boundaries. If the member can say, I will only answer phone calls from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that can just help separate Promise Fellow world from their personal lives. And then fellows have to make sure not to be sharing any student information. The example that I always use is that there was a Promise Fellow who was Snapchatting and got some homework assignments in the shot, and so there were student names and information that way. And so just make sure that fellows know that they have to be careful about sharing any confidential information. And then Americorps branding is important. Americorps is a huge national program, and we are proud to host Promise Fellows, and they make a huge impact. And so we want to make sure that anytime you are introducing a fellow to students to staff or talking about the Promise Fellows impact, that you're mentioning that they're an Americorps member. We just honor that impact. So that is what I have for you today. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to talk through any of these policies or procedures and help figure out whatever your questions are. You can reach me at my email there, bbenson@mnyouth.net, or at 651-340-0758. Thanks so much and have a great day.